Right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and anybody else who happens to be listening, of whatever race, species, or gender you wish to be, welcome to the Forensic Focus podcast. We just again, we talk. It's not going to come as any surprise to anybody who's listening, but we actually talk off air before we come on air. And we were just saying that we started this year. This is 2025. We're doing a wrap up episode for the end of 2025, and we started this year with an introduction to 25, and we were talking about, Donald Trump coming to power and what a roller coaster this year has been. If I'm going to say that seems so long ago to me, I can't even fathom the changes and the things that have happened in the world since that. When we recorded that was still something that was in the future.
Yeah, and you even went through and you put together all the episodes, and because it has felt like a busy year, and it felt busy for the episodes. But then, even now, as I sit here, we haven't done an individual episode.
No, we barely talk to each other
this year.
we
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
No, I mean,
are we still friends?
It's going to be better next year.
I think we tried a couple of times to have an episode with just us, and then it was back and forth, us getting sick, which kept cancelling, which has actually caused a few of our episodes this year to. We've still got one we're trying to chase down, but between the three of us keep getting sick. It seems like it was pretty quiet for everyone this year, but I know for both of us it feels really busy, so I guess it's just the same for everyone. So what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Only 7 that we did. Oh, plus the mental health series, which was probably
do you know what?
Like
it's actually loads, and I'm rather annoyed because he pinched one of my guests. I had Tom from Semantic 21 lined up to talk to, because they have a really interesting product actually. You'll like it, and I've persuaded him. He showed it to me when. I know I did do another conference this year. I was at the CCTV, the policing MPCC, so the National Police Chiefs Council CCTV conference. I went to. I've done 2 conferences. God, they're just so long ago in the distant past. This is what it is. But anyway, I met him at this CCTV conference, and he demoed to me a product that they have. And I hate to. I'm going to have to eat some of my words in this podcast, which is embarrassing. But I'm starting to like AI. I still think it should be referred to as applied statistics, but I'm starting to see that it actually has value. But he's demonstrating a product that they have. First of all, it's all offline, which gets rid of a whole bunch of my reservations about putting data into it. But it triangulates locations off imagery, and it's really, really impressive. Actually, I have to say, and I sort of said, look, you got to come onto the podcast, and I will give you a selection of random photos. I mean, you've shown me some things that you do, but it could all be smoke and mirrors, Wizard of Oz stuff that you've picked the examples work. So you come on, I'll give you three or 4 separate images, or we would both you could give over a couple that you've got, because you've travelled extensively as well. And see if they can triangulate those for us. But in the live demo, it was very impressive. But he got poached by the mental health podcast, which was infuriating. But he's going to come on. Hopefully, I saw him at the F3 conference, and hopefully he'll be on later in the year. But no, there's probably about the same as us, if not more, 6 or 7 episodes in the mental health series. I only listen to one podcast now. Yeah. And that's a Linux one.
Yeah, same. I used to listen to like
same here.
6 or 7. But this year I've only been listening to one. Do some audiobooks every now and then, and like pretty much cut out streaming. I don't know whether you're on like. How many streaming services are there now? There's more streaming services now than we appear on podcast platforms.
That is true.
I know that.
No, we've really cut back actually. So much so. So, do you have the concept of a television license in Australia?
No, you guys in the UK are weird. Why would you need a license for a TV? And I know that you had this, and we don't have it.
The theory behind it is that effectively it is a tax which goes towards public service broadcasting. Okay, so your TV license pays for the
Yeah,
BBC, so the British Broadcasting Corporation. Okay, and you get
yeah,
two channels for that. BBC, actually, you don't. There are two terrestrial broadcast channels, BBC One and BBC Two, and then there's a whole bunch of radio and digital stuff. Okay, but if you actually
yeah,
look at the terms
yeah.
and conditions of the television license, it is only required if you watch BBC One or BBC Two programs, or you are watching any live transmitted events. Okay, so if I wanted to watch football, which I don't, but if I wanted to watch football live, I would have to pay for a TV license. That is the legal obligation for it.
Yeah,
And we looked at our viewing,
yeah,
and the BBC, bless its cotton socks, has degraded in quality massively over the last 10 years, to the point there are actually no shows that I
yeah,
want to watch
yeah,
on the BBC. I don't watch sports,
yeah,
and even if I did want to watch them, I could watch them the next day and it would still be free if I could find them somewhere. So we've actually canned our TV license. I've had a TV license in the UK for the better part of 25 years, and this year we cancelled it. We've gotten rid of it.
What? How much? How like I never knew how much it
It
was. How
was
much was the
something like
TV license in the UK?
£170 a year, so it was about 15 quid a month. It's a subscription. It's the same as a subscription that gets you two channels as opposed to
Two channels.
everything.
Yeah. See, so like our equivalent of the BBC in terms of like
Yeah.
size in Australia is the ABC in Australia, so the Australian Broadcasting Network. They do TV and radio, and they actually put out a lot of good podcasts as well. So they have like, and they've got their own app, so
Yeah.
it's all in their own little ecosystem. But that's all like it's still taxpayer funded, but it's government funded. But we don't see it as, I guess we don't see it as a license, and we paid shitload of tax in Australia, so that's probably where
Yeah.
our subscription is for ABC is somewhere
Yeah.
in the
But the
monthly
idea,
tax that I pay.
one of the ideas behind the BBC was that
Yeah.
they were public funded so that they could be unbiased. And then
Yeah,
and then they probably blew
same
that
as the ABC. Yeah,
out the water a few weeks ago by being biased to the extent that Trump is suing them because they were anti-Trump. So it's quite bad. At least I'm glad that I'm not paying their legal bills now by not paying the license. So that's out. But no, you're right. I mean, streaming services we have in the house. We've got Disney Plus, Netflix. We don't have Apple at the moment. But we do have some advertising funded UK ones. So like we've got ITV and Channel 4, both of which are terrestrially broadcast, but they're funded by advertising. So you watch a program, you get an ad break, and then that's what pays for it. So they're quite good.
well, if you don't have premium Netflix now, it's now
That's true. Yeah.
ads anyway. So
But yeah, we killed our Amazon one. We killed our Apple one. Although I'm going to get the Apple one back again probably, but you buy an Apple device, you get 3 months free Apple TV. So I'm just going to keep buying new Apple devices every 3 months, and that should keep me in television.
as a segue into topics we actually talk about on this podcast, I wonder if there's ever been a case where they've done forensics on someone's viewing time on streaming services.
Okay, so I'm not going
like,
to say too. I'm not going to say too much because
prove
it's an active
something.
case. But I have.
Ooh, there
I
is one.
am aware. I am involved in a case whereby somebody's gaming habits are questionable as to whether they have an alibi for the fact that they were online playing a game at a given point in time versus out killing someone. So
Wasn't there a case that we spoke about when we had a guest, and it was I can't remember who the guest was or what the case was, but it was someone who was streaming their game, but what they'd done was that they'd pre-recorded it and lined it up, and then had gone out and committed the crime, right?
Yes.
Which I think was murder.
Yeah, it was a live. It was a live stream,
and
wasn't
that was
it?
their
But
defense.
It wasn't a live stream. It was a pre-recorded stream. Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, "Oh, we were streaming at home. How could we go out and commit the murder?" But then they'd proved that it was like a recorded, and then they'd played it through the live stream. I forget what that was. That was.
Well, I'm going to say it was either the case or a plot of a Death in Paradise episode that did show on the BBC. So, same sort of thing. But I have a recollection of that. But I do also remember very well Professor Sarah Morris when she was on was telling us about the guy who was trying to use his washing machine as an alibi because he'd turned it on. But that was turned on remotely over the internet. So,
Yeah, that was the weird digital forensics tech that you can do.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And I guess it's just getting more and more ingrained. Like the more, like there's been a few cases now with wearables, and like there was the one that we did with Matt Sorrell when he talked about the person who had been murdered. They figured out when their heart had actually stopped because they had a fitness tracker on. Yeah, time of death from an Apple Watch. I guess it's just going to get more and more ingrained especially as we have more wearables. Like as much as I probably don't like to admit it, but glasses will be more popular as a wearable. Like as batteries get better, I think. And I think we talked about this last week, maybe off air, but having glasses and a watch, or glasses and something else, like it'll be more popular. It'll just be more popular with.
I mean, I think that's
something.
Like I say, it's an interesting segue into what do we think the future of forensics is going to hold for us, because we are seeing more wearable devices now. I mean, although strangely, you've got a wearable on, haven't you? You've got an Apple Watch. Sorry, you have a watch.
No, I have a very basic. This is a Samsung product, but it's the Fit 3. It's like the most basic version you could get. So it's got I can measure my heart rate, which is fairly accurate, and it counts steps. And it just syncs. It's Bluetooth sync with my phone. That's it. It doesn't have
smart.
4G, 5G, whatever. No, it's not very smart. It's essentially a pedometer with a.
I've been through. I think I've been through 3 smart watches. I was a very early adopter, and I had a Sony watch before these things were a thing. In fact,
do they even have a wearable department anymore?
Oh no,
Sony?
I've got one even older than that. Hang on. Funnily enough, I've been tidying up so I can see. 2 seconds. Okay, so these are the these are the oldest ones. This one. I might have to turn my blur off. I might actually hold it up to the camera. Hang on, let me just kill the blur.
It looks like a.
It's a black square. There you go. You can have to focus on my room as well. So let's get some more light on it. I mean, it's not on, obviously. It's a clip-on. But that's a Sony Ericsson thing that used to work with your phone to just give alerts and stuff. It's got a couple of buttons on the corners so you can sort of read text messages and things. Really old school. That's a Sony smartwatch. Although smart, again, being a very relative term. It's got no sensors on the back, just the charging port. But that was a touch screen as well. And then I've had a Sony Garmin. Garmin's been the one that I've probably used the most. That was a good product. So that's it's the smartest of them, because that had NFC and stuff. But actually, this is the watch I actually wear, which is it was a birthday present. It's a Casio. Get it to focus here. No, it's a Casio G-Shock, so it's as about indestructible as you can get. But actually, this has got Bluetooth on it as well. It doesn't do anything. Except I can set alarms on it without having to press the buttons. which is useful.
I I had a G-Shock as well at one point. I think I've still got it. It's just the battery's dead. But it had Bluetooth. I couldn't do that, but I could get it. It
Yeah.
had like a vibration feature. So if I got a message, it would vibrate, and then I could program the hands so the hour and the minute hand would turn to a number, and I could pre-configure what that number meant for the notification. So if it was like a Facebook message, it would be 1 o'clock. If it was like a WhatsApp message, it could be 3 o'clock. So I could set which apps were giving me notifications to which numbers on. So essentially, I could have 12 different notifications as long as I memorized which notifications
Oh,
went
that's
to which
brilliant.
number.
I love that. That's such a good idea. Bring that back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this one has two Bluetooth features. One is that it will set the time. I mean, you can set some things, but it syncs the time with the NTP servers, so it's accurate. And the other thing is there's a button on here that I can press that will find my phone when I've lost it, because it will set the phone ringing, just to basically when I put my phone down somewhere, it's got that functionality. Provided it can connect to it, I can alarm my phone, which when I drop it down the sofa is useful. But apart from that, it's pretty pointless. What I will say though is it's solar powered, which means I don't have to worry about the batteries anymore, which is a heavenly thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, so
Yeah, I was looking at the Sony smartwatch. They were released. Well, Sony Smartwatch 2 was released in September 2013. So they've, like, I guess those kind of smartwatches have been on the market for a very long time. It was running Android 4,
wow,
which is obsolete essentially.
Seven-
What are we
hang
up to
on.
now? Android.
This being a Google Pixel is actually current.
Oh yeah.
Although that's going to run out soon. It's a Pixel 7, so it's
16.
about phone.
Android 16 was released June 10th, 2025. So Google might be on some beta version, but 16 is probably the standard for a lot of people.
Security update 5th of October 2025. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kernel version Android 14. That makes no sense at all, does it? Anyway. Yeah.
So in terms of predictions, like I think the wearables will increase, probably in form factor of watches and glasses. What, like, do you have any predictions for technology like that, like consumer technology?
I think what we're starting to see, I think given the normal sort of technology curve, I actually think what we're in is a bit of a lull. We're seeing incremental improvements in lots of things. I mean, everything has more storage. I got into a bit of not an argument. I got into a bit of a comment thing on LinkedIn the other day about this. But essentially, somebody was saying, "Oh, we've got 5 petabytes of data off 3,000 devices," and it's like, well, that's actually only a terabyte per device, just over a terabyte per device, 1 terabyte, and we're well beyond having 1 gigabyte of storage on a phone. You've got 512 gigabytes on half the stuff. You've got terabytes on some phones. In computers, you're on terabytes as a minimum.
Yeah.
So I actually found that figure to be quite low, and I was quite surprised that it wasn't a higher number. But things like battery life and data storage and speed are starting to be more are incrementing well, but actual new functionality, new stuff, I don't think we're really seeing that much. The only places we're seeing the huge, not leaps, but the changes is in the machine learning AI space, where it's gone from being a clunky, not difficult to use, clunky thing that you basically is obvious it's AI, to actually a quite seamless quite seamless thing to talk to and get answers out of.
Yeah, actually, that's probably it. Like, not so much in the direct consumer space, but probably something we'll interact with in terms of businesses. But that AI generated kind of people will be good enough to pretty much fool the average person. Like, in terms of interaction, because I've seen, like, I think it was in New York, they've replaced cashier workers in cafes with iPads with like virtual assistants from the Philippines, to cut down on wages, because they don't have to pay New York minimum wage. They can pay $1.25 an hour to this Filipino worker just to take your order, and then that gets automated through their in system. The next step on that will be when AI is good enough and you have an avatar, and as you come into the shop, like, your interactions are minimal. So, like, the level of, like, you're going to walk in and you'll be like, oh, this is like someone from the Philippines that I'm talking to, but it won't be. It'll be AI, and you just won't know the difference.
Did you see there was an article the other day? I'm going to try and find it while I talk through this, so I may be slightly distracted. But essentially, there's a company that does AI transcription for meetings. When they set it up, the two guys who set up the company didn't actually have any AI technology. And all they were doing was connecting into meetings and basically transcribing it all themselves by hand during the meeting, and then signing out again, and then sending this AI created thing to the here we are. Hang on, so it's news.
Oh man.
Yeah, total smoke and mirrors. And it's like the thing was that basically the articles were all like, everybody's promising us loads of stuff with AI, and it's all complete rubbish. And but there is AI behind it, and this product it doesn't even have that, you know.
Oh, I hate that. I hate how much just like it happens all the time though, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just marketing and advertisement that holds some of these companies up.
Right, here we go. If I find the chat in this place, there we are. Everyone, yeah. There you go. So a billion-dollar US AI company co-founder admits that its £100 a month transcription service was originally two guys surviving on pizza and typing out notes by hand.
Oh, and it was Fireflies. So Fireflies was the company as well, which is a pretty big one. Like, we've seen that in a few cases where, because we have the thing at our work where people can't use transcription because it's essentially data loss, because it's being stored on cloud servers outside of a company's control.
Now, I was going to say, somebody had invited. I've been in a meeting with the Fireflies agent, and I wish they'd sent people, because the transcription service was terrible. It was very, very poor quality, what it came out with at the end of it. And in fact, I say this because I had a meeting with the same people today, and I saw the bot attempt to join, and I canned it because I didn't think it was worth it, and I didn't like it. So not a good thing. So
I think that'll be interesting in the future, like, as because these companies are trying to push AI companions, right, or AI assistants into, I assume, more of the wearable devices as well. So, like, especially with, like, if we have glasses that have the video panel on them and that kind of stuff, like, they'll want to put AI into that to be. So essentially, we have. Do you ever play any kind of?
I have played Zelda. Yeah,
Zelda game,
played Zelda, yeah.
Like, growing up at all? Yeah. You know how there's always that really annoying companion that's just like.
Well, this is it. We've gone from.
And you're just like.
from being competent people ourselves to having Clippy sitting on our shoulder telling us stuff. and remember what happened to Clippy the first time round. You know, I'm going to say for the young... Actually, I'm going to say Clippy's probably before your time as well, but at least you've been in the IT industry enough to...
No, I remember Clippy, so it'd be people...
Yeah, so anybody not listening, just look up Clippy, Microsoft and Clippy. And that was arguably it was recognising behaviour and then offering to offer assistance on the basis of behavioural identification. It looks like you're trying to write a letter. Can I help? No, go away. I know how to write a letter. So I think we're sort of we keep trying to do this to ourselves. I think it's interesting that the human idea of utopia is basically something you can talk to that does your work for you.
Is less humans.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Is what it is. We're all secretly introverts, and we're all like, if there was just less people, and I could just talk to someone who wasn't a person,
makes my life so much better.
But where I was going with that was like as more of those kind of companions come in, because we're already seeing it in courts now, where AI companies are being asked for data, and sometimes it's legitimate, sometimes it's just asking to try and see it. There was the one with OpenAI where New York Times was suing OpenAI to get access to a bunch of data because they were doing a story on whether or not customers' data was essentially like de-anonymized or something. And so they were like, well, show us some of the data. And then OpenAI is like, no, that's a breach of privacy. And they're like, is it a breach of privacy if you're de-anonymizing the data? And so it's like this back and forth. And they're like, this is part of legal discovery. Like, we're not releasing the data. We're trying to like get it to legally prove whether or not you're de-anonymizing it or not. It's not like they were going to publish the data. And anyway, they ended up losing, I don't know what the legal term is, the injunction that they were trying to do to stop it, but the judge said no, like you need to provide the data. And then OpenAI put out an article to just like the general public, and they were like, New York Times is doing this, but then missed out a bunch of the details, including the fact that they'd lost the injunction and the judge was like, you need to provide the data. But I think we'll see more and more of that with AI companies. But it'll be interesting if those companions are more ingrained in our technology and our lives to the point where, like I assume in the glasses, they would just automatically be filming to then be like Clippy and pop up and be like, oh, I see you're trying to break into a car. Would you like some help with that? And then how the legal system goes about trying to like obtain that from the company, because it's not going to be stored locally. It'll be stored in the cloud somewhere.
It's interesting you should say it's not going to be stored locally, because some of it is stored locally. And that's certainly from what exists now, there are artifacts that can be found on devices that show queries, responses, images, both pre, during, and post processing. So the example that I saw was actually somebody putting a bank card into a photo of a bank card into an AI, asking it to change the name on it, and receiving a result with a changed name.
Right. Okay.
But you had you had the first part, you had the second part where it had figured out the parts it needed to be changed and then had blanked them. So effectively just taken the name off it so you could see the parts that were going to be changed and weren't going to be changed in the image. And then the final completed image, which put I think it was John McClane from Die Hard's name across this bank card or whatever it was. But just circling back slightly, there's another good lawsuit in the US, which actually I'm part of. It was a class action against one of the AI companies for hoovering books. and they lost, and the settlement is billions. It's absolutely massive. Hang on, again, I will find a link. In class action.
This is the one where they were like pirating books and then just ingesting it as part of their learning model. Yeah.
Anthropic.
The sad thing is,
AI startup Anthropic agrees to pay 1.5 billion to settle $1.5 billion US to settle book piracy lawsuit.
Yeah. And this is the sad part, right? Like they've already benefited from ripping off the works, and there's no takebacks. Like there's no tearing that out of the learning model, right?
They're paying for the thing they should have paid for in the first place.
For the money. Yeah. But they're now so big that payment is worth it, right? Because they're just like, we'll pay this settlement, we're going to make way more money, and we already have all these works now. Like, it's shitty that and they all did it. Like, Meta did it. What? I don't know whether they've lost a lawsuit yet, but I know Meta's like in part of it because they had those email leaks where they're just like, oh, should we be like, why are we hiding our IP address? And they're just like, because we're pirating books and we don't want it to come from Meta. And I'm sure like a lot of the other big ones have done the same because they just were like, oh, this content that we can just ingest and use, but it wasn't in good faith. Just like shitty for the creators.
Although, hopefully I might get a payout for that, so that'd be good. We'll see. I'll let you know what my share of 1.5 billion is once it's divided amongst all of the authors, all of the publishing companies, and all of that.
And once all the lawyers have taken
I'll tell
their
you
fees
about my $1.50 when it arrives, and we'll talk about that. So fascinating. But anyway, I was quite. Actually, again, somebody sort of said it. A gentleman called Angus Marshall, who's a friend in the UK, a professor in York, I think. I may have got that wrong. Sorry, Angus. But he pointed it out on LinkedIn, and they actually made it really easy to go and search to whether your book had been included in it, and then put in the paperwork and join the class action. It was a very well managed thing that you're right, they're going to take their healthy cut out of to make it work. So but that's it. I mean, this is actually the real problem, I think, with AI at the moment is the ethical implications of it, is because it's we've got stuff that's completely plagiarized. All of it's plagiarized to a certain extent because it's a conglomeration of the works of millions of people across the internet, whether it's been copyright protected properly or not. It's still taking human creativity and using it as input. So you've got that ethical dilemma to deal with, and then you've got the inverse of it, which was the article I sent you about the fact that it's now being used in the legal system in various assorted ways, and we're having to filter out where it's appropriate and where it's not, if it's appropriate and if it's not, and that's not been a well-defined thing yet, and I don't think anybody's making huge inroads into it either. I mean, I know that law moves at a pace that makes the average glacier look speedy, but although again they're talking bad news of the day here, and this will date this particular episode, they've decided, or they're trying, certain parts of the government in the UK are trying to get rid of trial by jury for certain crimes. Which, given that being tried by a group of your peers is a fundamental basis of quite a lot of our legal system for the last 800 years, all of a sudden to try and rip that out of the legal system is a bit dishonest, in my opinion. But what do I know?
We'll link this as well. The article that Sai was talking about was. Judges have become human filters as AI in Australia courts reaches unsustainable phase, Chief of Justice says. So it's saying that like lawyers and all that are using AI, and that judges are having to spend more time being a filter, is kind of what this article goes through and says. which I saw another good quote, and I'll misquote this from where I read it, but it was uh, AI speeds up implementation, but we need to equally slow down our thinking. And so, and then it showed an example. It was like some consultant who had gone into a company, like an AI consultant had gone into a company. So this company had like shipped an AI feature in 2 days, and 13 days later they had to pull it because they'd like implemented, hadn't really thought about what the impact it was going to do to the product, kind of like all the legal problems that you have with data and everything else. They hadn't thought of that, so they had to pull the product and then spend the next like 3 months trying to fix that. And I think that's everywhere. Like it's here now. We used to, I can imagine in the legal system before AI, like lawyers would have put it all together, and then as a judge, like you're trusting the level of research and rigor that goes into putting something together and presenting it to the court. And so you use less thought cycles as you're reading it, because you're like, okay, they've quoted this case, they've obviously gone and looked at the case. If it kind of didn't sound right, you might go look at it, but most of the time you just trust it. Whereas now we're seeing examples of where they're just like, AI is just making up court cases that don't even exist just to support its point. But I think that's everywhere, because I was using AI at my job the other day, and it was in a because we've got like a corporate one. It was in one of our code bases, and I was like, I need you to go search all of our content for anything that includes these keywords. So it was essentially like I was getting it to do a grep search for me, and so it took me 5 tries to get it to return the full list because it kept truncating it for some reason. And I was like, give me the full results. And it was like, oh, okay, I'll go do this. And then it gave me another truncated list. And I was like, why are you truncating the list? And it was just like, oh, there's a lot to display. And I was like, I don't care. Show me everything. Finally got it to show me everything. And then I said, can you count? It had like bullet point, like dot points for like all the file names. And I said, how many file names did you return? And it was just like, oh, like I've gone through and found 24 different rule files that have these keywords in it. And I counted out and there was 28. And I was just like, why did you tell me there was 24 when there's 28? And they're like, oh, you're right, my mistake. And I was just like, you can't even do basic math. Like, and in the end, I was just like, this would have been easier if I just opened a terminal and used grep.
And then pipes it into a file and then WC'd the file,
Well, but I didn't even need a file. I could have just done like grep, just give me the headers where these keywords are in, and then pipe WC tac out, like. And I thought this would be easy. I thought this would be one
command where it would work.
One command.
I came across. It's this. This is
so simple.
Thing, I came across it. Did I talk about this? I can't remember whether I talked about this with you. I tried to get it to write a poem. Okay. And to do it with a specific number of letters per word. It didn't. I mean, I wasn't expecting bloody Shakespeare or anything. Not that I'm that big a fan of Shakespeare, but it was just like and here's your poem, and yes, we're using the word soliloquy for the one with 2 letters in it. And you're like, you've got no clue, do you? You just really don't know. I don't know. Well, actually, I do know, because it has no thought process. This is it. Is that it's doing a probabilistic return on what the next most likely word is. That has nothing to do with what it's actually thinking about. So, especially when it comes to poetry, it's looking at its corpus of previous poetry and finding likelihood next words. But it's just missing that thinking step to engage. I'm going to say ChatGPT has gotten better, and it's the only one I really play with. I actually pay for it as well. I have a paid subscription on ChatGPT. And it has 2 options. One is deep research, where you can send it off, and if you ask it to bring you back Harvard references, it does. And it makes them clickable links as well, so you can go off and check to make sure that it hasn't fictionalized anything, which is
that's good.
Really useful. And it has.
The researchers at Harvard haven't like fictionalize the AI research. Yeah.
I'm like, am I being paid to review this academic paper? No, it's been published. It's been peer reviewed. I'm sure it's fine. You gotta stop somewhere. So yeah. So I'm finding and this is where I've actually started to find it useful, because it's kind of a better in this circumstance, and I appreciate what you're saying should have been also a kind of better thing. But it is quite good if you say, I want, can you go off and look up academic papers that relate to this topic in forensics? It will go off and it will trawl papers, and it does come back, and it does come back with references. No, they're not always the best, but at least it's quicker and easier than doing it yourself. And as long as you're verifying it. But this is the mantra of forensics anyway. We don't trust anyone. Everybody's lying to us. We have to see it with our very own eyes before we believe it. Which is why we, generally speaking, we don't like the push button stuff. If I haven't verified it in a hex editor to prove it's there, it doesn't exist. So I think in that regard, that there is room for AI in the space. But again, it's a difficult one, because then it's an important distinction that I've been trying to make to some people in the UK and in the court system. There's a difference between intelligence gathering and evidence gathering. You can use a tool to find something out, and you can use it to carry out an investigation, but that's not the same thing as providing solid evidence to support what your assertions that come out of the investigation are. If you're like, can you show me all of the people who have written about this topic? It doesn't mean that one of them has necessarily committed the crime. But if you go and then use that list of people to narrow down your search suspects from 44 million to 12, that's fine, that's acceptable. But you've then got to go and get the evidence that somebody's actually done something. That's the thing. I think this is where people are treating AI wrong, is that they're treating it as a finished product, and it's a tool, and it's to get you the next step, but it's not the final step.
A finished product and a decision maker is what some people I think are treating it as. And I think it was like Bill Gates, when computers were like first commercially introduced, he was like, they should never be made, I think it was Bill Gates, but never be made to they're not designed to make decisions, essentially, is what he was saying. So they're there to assist, but never to like help make a management decision. And I think AI is the same. Like like the judges, like they're still the human. There's always going to have to be the human in the loop, but it's when it becomes so normalized that the human in the loop's almost ignored, or we're just like, oh, it's done this 1,000 times. We don't need to do it at all. Because then you get into like a good thought experiment is like those self-driving cars when you've got no guardrails around it. So like the Teslas in the tunnels where they literally can't go anywhere and it's just like brake. There's no like pedestrian walking across the road thought experiment. That's like a good example where you can let it do its thing, because it's like there's no surprise there. But if a self-driving car's on the road and then you have a kid run out, like who's at fault? The person or the car for not stopping in time? Like with defined boundaries, we can let it make decisions, but you're severely restricting it in those decisions. That it's kind of like almost like binary choices that it can make. Is I think the difference there. Yeah, we'll see it more and more in the new year. I think I don't even think that's a prediction. Like, we know that
dead certainties that we're allowed to talk about.
AI is inevitable at this point. Yeah. What else though? What else do we think is happening?
I don't know. I think there's a couple of interesting things that appear to me, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure how realistic I am being about it, but I think the operating system wars are opening up again. I think it used to be it used to be that. I'm going to say it used to be that Unix was dominant, but that was a long time ago. Microsoft essentially cornered the market and owned 99% of it. Apple owned 0.9% and everything else had 0.01. I think it's shifting back. I think it's shifting to a point where actually Apple is a far more prevalent operating system than it used to be, Mac OS X, both in iOS and in the desktop versions. Although it's interesting to see that the iOS and OS X are actually aligning operating system wise. The code base is tying up. Microsoft are out. Yeah,
they've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, no, it's
been
moving that way.
Yeah.
So much so that iOS and the iPad is now a fully multitasking operating system. You can open windows and move them around and have multiple windows open in the same way as you can on a desktop. It used to be a single app at the time thing. Android and iOS are the only competitors in the phone market, really. I mean, there are one or two others and a couple of just sort of feature phones, but fundamentally, Android and iOS, with Android having the vaster market share, which is Linux, so that's that. We're seeing the Steam machine coming out, which is Linux. The new Steam box is Linux. So I'm wondering if perhaps with the Android tablets, with the iOS, with that, if Microsoft's actually starting to lose its grip on the consumer market a bit. So a fairly controversial thing to say, I appreciate that, but I think that...
So Apple's... Yeah, I was just looking up some stats, and these are from AI, so I don't know how trustworthy this is, but current, for computers, not mobile devices, have approximately, this is Apple, 8.7 to 10.1% globally based on shipments, market share. The other thing to this is I don't know, like, so this is, I'm using just Google Gemini is what's pulling these stats. I think this is only Western world as well. So if we actually consider like the global market, including places like China, there's probably more players in the field than just Windows and Apple. Actually, I don't know whether they would have mobile operating systems that are different, right? But not...
Well, I'm going to say, I think if you look at China, they have a Linux-based operating system. So does North Korea. Sorry, pick the right side of the line.
Yeah. Oh, Harmony OS is apparently a big operating system in China.
I think that's Linux-based.
It's why systems designed for a wide range of smartphones, PCs.
Oh no, actually Harmony. That may well be
a proper OS. Yeah, they have something called Kylin, which is a Linux-based one.
KaiOS is that's a Linux-based one as well, I think, but that's a smart feature phones one. Yeah.
They also have AI PC, China's first homegrown PC operating system that features AI capabilities. So, which is really interesting, right? Like, they would sell so many units, which would affect the global market share if you looked at all those stats. But with the geopolitical stance of kind of the US, UK, Australia, like how we treat, like we're not going to be buying Chinese operating systems anytime soon. But we also don't consider it as like a market share.
I would say, just on the buying Chinese operating systems front, there was another interesting article the other day, and again I'll pull it and put it in the links so that people can listen to it. But a guy bought a robot Hoover that was a cheap Chinese thing. Basically discovered that it was sending all of his house mapping data back to China. Which on one hand is not terribly surprising because, it's not like this thing has got enough processing power to do, smart AI features on board. It clearly needed to offload it onto another processor. But the thing was that he blocked it. He blocks the outward ports for that data export. And the Hoover carried on working to a certain degree and was just wandering around bumping into things and hoovering. But a few days after that, it got bricked remotely. They sent a firmware update that killed it. So it was like, okay. So ChatGPT's reckoning across all connected personal devices worldwide, and this is thought through. So all Android is about 44 to 45% of the worldwide market. Windows 27%, iOS is 16%, Mac OS is 5%, and then everything else, which is Linux, Chrome, and Harmony, Kaios, etc., is standing in at 7%. So effectively, Windows, which used to be the absolute dominant market share, is now second to Android quite substantially. If you look at desktop operating systems, this reckoning is at 71% to Windows, 16% to Mac OS, 4% to desktop Linux, 2% to Chrome, and then it has a rather unhelpful 8% of I don't have a clue. But that could either be things that aren't reporting properly on the internet, or are genuinely other operating systems, perhaps. But so yeah, it's quite interesting. In tablets themselves, iOS is slightly over Android at 51 to 49%. Mobile phones, though, Android 72%, iOS 27%, and then the others are fractions. Oh, of course, embedded TVs, usually Linux and Android.
Android, yeah.
Of all web servers, 77% Linux. Of the top 500 supercomputers, all of them run Linux. So, and that's it. And also, a lot of people are in the position now with the Windows 11 rollout, which has canned support for anything that doesn't have a TPM or doesn't have enough memory or whatever. Lots of people have got older bits of hardware kicking around, and Linux has actually become. Didn't
they fix that? I know when they originally rolled out Windows 11, it was like bricking a bunch of things.
It doesn't brick them. It just tells you can't upgrade now. Just straight up. Yeah. So it won't actually crash it, but it won't do it either. So if you've got an old machine, and Linux has become easy to get hold of and easy to install and nearly easy to use. Well, it is easy to use for us. It's just, but for your average person, it's actually become a plausible and usable desktop system. I reckon that Windows might start to see a greater decline.
The one thing holding back Linux from being more dominant for the average consumer is that it's just, you can't run all the apps that you can run on Windows. And that's from like a developer standpoint. Like they might make their application work on Windows and Mac, and that's it. They don't make a Linux version. I think if the majority of things that you could do on Windows, you could do on a Linux machine, everyone would have Ubuntu.
I think
because that's the only reason that it stops me having my daily drive.
But what do you actually use on Windows that you would miss on Ubuntu?
So and I need to go, like, it's probably been at least 12 months since I looked at this, but things like DaVinci video editing, and I think at the time some like games wouldn't run on Linux, but that's gotten better with like how much Steam has like ported shit across. Probably since they made the Steam Deck, which runs on Linux. There was a few of my instant response tools that wouldn't run on Linux, so I still had Windows. Yeah, there was enough for me at the time to be like, I couldn't switch across.
Yeah.
But maybe now. But I think there's still a gap in the consumer market for the average person. But that's probably diminishing because, like, I mean, you look at, like, we've got a Chrome OS laptop, and it doesn't run a bunch of stuff because it's essentially just
Yeah, yeah.
like a browser on a laptop, and we use it for the fitness business. But like, it's not my daily driver, but it's still good enough for like
Well, that's it.
watching
It's good
YouTube,
for.
like doing everything's
That's
everything's
it.
in browsers
And
these
in fact,
days.
funnily
Yeah,
enough, I think this is where Microsoft shot themselves in the foot. It's because um, I'll give a prime example. My youngest daughter needed a laptop, and I had a really crappy, old, knackered MacBook Air kicking around. I mean, so bad that basically, if it's not plugged in, it doesn't work. The battery is so shot that it literally needed to stay plugged in to run. It had no battery capacity left. And I put Linux onto that, and the touchpad didn't work properly, which is another small problem. But anyway, but I put Linux onto that for her to use for a bit, and she was working on a project with a couple of universities, and they all had an O365 instance. So she was logging into O365, doing her Word, doing Excel, doing Teams meetings through the web browser. She didn't need She didn't need Windows. It just wasn't a thing anymore. It's not necessary. You could have a Chromebook. You could have and I don't know whether they did this to counter Google Chrome,
yeah.
Google Docs and Google Sheets or whatever it's called. And I hate it with a vengeance, to be honest. The Google version of the of the online stuff.
There's just some that I get frustrated because there's just like when you get into it, especially the Google Sheets, it's just missing some of the like functions that you have in Excel, and you're just like, why isn't this included?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a basic feature.
The one that drove me around the bend
Yeah.
with Word on O365 to start with was you couldn't do footnotes. And I probably write more footnotes than any normal human being should ever do, other than Terry Pratchett, which is my,
Yeah.
a writing god, and therefore should be emulated in every available opportunity. But actually, I use
Sorry, for our listeners as well. If you don't know who Terry Pratchett is, go out and buy one of his books and read it. 'Cause it's really good.
It's the best, and you know, I actually use him for teaching ethics, because you must have read
From which
any
book?
of the Sam Vimes books. So there's a set of books which involve a police officer or an officer of the night watch in this universe, and but each of the books covers a particular ethical dilemma. So you have Thud, which is racism, effectively, although the is speciesism because it's dwarves versus trolls. You have is it Raising Steam, which I think is modern slavery, basically. There's my personal favourite's one called Night Watch, which is just fundamental ethics of policing as a whole and the rights that a police officer has.
Because that's before he's a captain, I think. Night Watch is
No,
the first one in the
first
series?
one is Guard. You see, Guards. There's a
Oh,
there's
Guards,
a friend of
Guards.
mine called Fran Peacock who is. I don't know if she's. I hope she listens to this because she's brilliant. She's a CCTV expert in Ireland now, but she actually studied science fiction before to a master's degree level and literature and stuff. So she'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Guards is the first one, and he starts off very lowly, and he ends up as the Duke of Ankh-Morpork, so very high-ranking aristocracy by the time he's finished. But yes, yeah, they are very, very good. It's interesting to see ethics sneak in under the guise of humour, and very, very important things get said. And yes, it is honestly. I do honestly teach it. Is that? So yeah, very, very important. How did we get onto this? I'm sorry, I'm gone. Oh, footnotes. That was it. Footnotes. In Word. Yeah. So
Footnotes,
I think we may see a dynamic
365.
change in the way that people relate to computers in the home. I think things like the Steam Deck coming along, or not the Steam Deck, the Steam Box, the new one, for gamers, which will replace the traditional console with a computer again. Although, if you look too closely at either a PlayStation or an Xbox, you realise that they are actually just computers anyway.
They're just computers.
With NVIDIA cards and all of the usual gubbins, just a scaled back OS. I think...
Because like that's what I've got. I've in my home. Like I've just built my own Linux PC, stuck Steam on it. Like I've got my own. Because you can purchase. Like they're just making it productized for the person who doesn't know how to build a computer or doesn't.
But what's
want to
interesting is
build a
in
computer.
that productized version, there is this is a desktop. You can click it to give you a full Linux desktop that'll allow you to surf the web and stuff.
Yeah, well, we've had that for like the Steam. I've got a Steam Deck as well. You can exit the handheld mode, and it's a full.
I've never
desktop.
actually bothered with mine to do so, but I understand that you can plug it because it's got HDMI out on the top and USB-C, so you can plug a keyboard and mouse in.
Yeah, I've got a dock, and then the dock connects to wireless keyboard and mouse. So it's much easier when it's on the TV. Like then you can go into computer mode. Which I guess would be good for like setting that up would be better for the bigger games like Civilization or something, where you need the mouse rather than a controller movement. But even Samsung for a long time, they've had decks, which is like you can put your phone into a dock and then it's like a Linux or an Android operating system that they have. They don't push it as much. I've figured out it's still on my phone. Like I've got a Samsung phone, still on this phone. It's just they don't push it as a feature anymore.
They've got a dedicated customer base who would die and go away if they'd stop using it, but they don't want to sell it to anybody new. So no, fair enough. Samsung's got a lot of interesting features actually, along with their is it Knox, the secure section? Yeah.
The secure one,
So that's cool.
It is interesting. Like I think we are switching from... It's been gradual over time, but even a generational thing, like... We grew up using desktop computers and then got introduced to phones, whereas younger generations now start using phones and mobile devices. And I was talking to someone the other day who was my age. They were 36, and they'd not grown up the way that I did having a desktop computer, because like my dad was just into it, so that's why we always had one. And then at school, but she grew up and she never really had a desktop computer. Like her only interaction was kind of like mobile phones was her first interaction. And so when we were talking, she was like, "Oh, I need to do this thing. Can I borrow a laptop?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "Oh, I just like can't. It's too hard to do on the iPad." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And so like she had a work computer that was at work, but she needed to do something at home and didn't have a keyboard. And I was just like, what? Like, who doesn't own a computer? Who my age doesn't own at least some shitty laptop? But she just didn't own one. She owned a phone and an iPad, like an Apple phone and an iPad, and that was it. And I was like, wow, I never thought I would meet someone, but and I knew that was the case for a younger generation as well.
Well, I'm going to say, okay, admittedly,
they'll not have computers.
It's my daughter who grew up in this household, and you can imagine how many computers there are here. But we came to...
Yeah, there's a pile of probably 20
I'm not
behind you.
even going to deny it. This was before I even get to the garage. A friend of mine, I threw some away, and a friend of mine literally just told me off on the phone because I said I'd thrown out an old IBM Unix server, and he was like, "No, you don't throw away old hardware." And I was like, "Yeah, but I was only using it to stand on to get stuff off tall shelves because it's just so solidly built." But
it wasn't a server; it was a step.
It must have weighed about 30 kilos. Seriously, steel frame chassis. It was bonkers. the tip looks at me somewhat odd when I took it over there. But you know, she wasn't going to take that crappy MacBook Air to uni. So I said, look, you know, what is it that you want? We'll sort something out. And I said, do you want my iPad? I've got an iPad Pro. I said, it comes with a keyboard case, you know, and you got the pen. You can make notes on it. You can. She was like, no, I don't. She actually wanted a real keyboard. She couldn't stand the idea of not having a real keyboard. So there is some sort of. It's definitely a familiarity thing, not an age related thing, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and I think your situation is unique. I think there's less and less of that because she's grown up around so much technology. It's the general population that don't, because like their parents may have a computer, but the kids don't really use it that much. They get an iPad for Christmas.
It's that in consoles, isn't it? So.
And like I see that with my friend that doesn't own a computer. Her daughter is very much like that. Like she'll use an iPad. She has one of those shitty school-funded laptops, which she'll probably never use again once she leaves the school system. And they have a Switch, and that's her exposure to technology, is a phone and iPad and a Switch. How
do these people get data into machines? Because I mean, I type faster than I write, and the interface to a tablet to either write and get handwriting recognition or type onto it is awful. How are they talking at them?
No, but they're not using technology the way that us and our listeners probably use technology. Like, we need to put in, like, even in my spare time, like I'm putting in shitloads of information into my computer for like video editing or writing copy or whatever else. The average person's not doing that. They're actually just consuming content, and that's what the device is designed to do. Like, you consume apps, you consume YouTube, you consume streaming services. That's it. You're not actually using it.
It's interesting.
Anything.
I wonder. I see your assertion, and I wonder if you're only partially right. I wonder if it's just that the content that they are generating is now almost universally video, because they're all uploading photos of lunch to Instagram.
Oh,
So no, but I mean, just in that sense,
yeah.
is that, you know, we generate written content and we edit video content, whereas they are just chucking something together in videoing it on their phone, chucking it together in some app on the phone, and then uploading it to TikTok.
Yeah. So they're no longer writing. Long Facebook posts like my aunties used to do and rant about things. But they may upload a picture with a small caption. Yeah.
So it's the
yeah, that's probably true.
And also I'm going to say it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's the other thing that we've noticed going over time, is that we used to see lots of landscape media and videos, and now most of the media and videos we see are portrait. We've gone.
What's that? The 9 by 16 that Instagram and everything.
So it's an interesting.
Yeah, that's true. The general population probably, like, you think of the rise of TikTok, and then YouTube has Shorts, Instagram has Reels. Like everyone's making those.
So I think I think what we will see in terms of trends perhaps is directed at that. You know, we're looking at things that will enable the creation of media in that way, and it will be things like you suggested that will have cameras in glasses and a phone that you tap to start and stop recording, and then we'll be looking to extract information from those devices. Although at the moment I'm not sure there's enough processing power in either the watch or the glasses. There will always be a third phone device in the pocket that's doing the hard graft of it.
I think the Apple Pro Watch probably has enough processing power. It wouldn't have enough battery life. I think battery is definitely our limitation.
Yeah, it's
like, if they can solve the small factor battery problem, then Because like a lot of those devices have smaller processors
Mm.
because they're more energy efficient. But if you could have more energy, then it would, yeah, like I think
Yeah.
eliminate phones. Not eliminate them, but it would like people who were adopting the smart watch, smart glasses form factor probably wouldn't carry
Yeah.
their phone.
I think it's. I'm going to say the one thing that
Yeah.
I've also noticed is that people seem to have completely changed the way, mercifully not universally, but people have seemed to change the way that they use their phone. Those of us that are again old enough to remember things that were still connected to the wall, that still had a cable coming from them, that you actually had to hold them, the speaker to one ear and the microphone to the other, you know, to talk into it, still use a telephone in that way. People wandering around talking into it like
Yeah.
this, and all of us hearing their conversations as it goes on drives me around the bloody bend. And that's just me, you know. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get to a point soon of yelling, "Get off my lawn!" at people. Obviously, I'm getting to that age, but you know, I think if we could get rid of the phone so that people can just, you know, have, I don't know, bone conductive sound, or you know, earbuds. I use earbuds a lot for calls because I don't particularly like holding a phone, but it's a bit different in that regard. But yeah,
I will say that it's very interesting, like, because we talk about a lot of this. It would be super interesting to get someone who is young in digital forensics onto the show to talk to them about how they use technology, or even just someone younger in general from a more general population. Because I was reading an article the other day. It might have been Gen Alpha or Gen Z. I'll try and find the article and post it in the show notes. But it was about how they were essentially. It was funny because they were like, we came up with this idea where we were just gonna like chain our phones to the wall or something, or like to a band. It was essentially like making their
yeah,
mobile landline again, because they're like, we use our phones too much and we don't want to use them, and even the use reduction applications that you have, where it kind of like strips all your
yeah.
applications down to the bare minimum, that wasn't working. So what someone did was like create a case that they could lock their phone into, and then they chain that to the wall. And so if they wanted to make a call or anything, they had to like get up and go to their phone. And I was just like, that's just a landline. Um, yeah, there was like this. I don't know how big the movement was, but there was like a few people like doing this because they're just like, we spend way too much time scrolling on our phone. We just want to like embrace. It's that whole embrace boredom movement. I don't know whether you've seen that. People will. This is the funny thing with the embrace boredom movement is people film themselves doing it and then post that as content.
How is that
But they
content?
essentially like film themselves for like, oh fuck, they time lapse it, so at least it's faster than actually watching them do it. But they film themselves for like an hour, like half an hour, just sitting there doing nothing. And like the whole point is to be bored, not to consume
I mean,
content. And so it's to try and rewire your brain to be able to not have a
part
device.
of me quite likes that as a concept, in so much as, um, yes, the 24/7 media consumption is probably not great. The other part of me loves the irony of videoing it for content purposes, which is like, why? Why the hell? Just go outside for God's sakes. So yeah, I mean, I know I've seen a few of your posts relating to health far more, where you're just sort of saying, look, you know, go for a walk, you'll feel way better afterwards. So so yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you.
And yeah, I get this whole content thing. Like I sometimes, because like I use Instagram for the fitness stuff to post, and I'll go on there to post something, and then you just get sucked in to like the
Yeah.
scrolling in Instagram. Like it is addictive, and it's hard. It's like, no, I'm doing work, or I have to stop this
Have
and
you
do something
noticed the
else.
massive
And
uptick in AI generated material on Instagram though?
oh, fucking hate it. It's actually helped me get off social media faster because I see it and I'm like, this is rubbish, and I get off. And especially on X, so old Twitter, for those who knew it.
The only time I go onto X is if I am looking to find out what the general British public reaction is to something. And then I just sort of canvass canvass the morons and then come back out again.
So X, there is so much AI generated content. In general, it does a pretty good job at marking what is AI generated. It has a little warning underneath it. But I'd say for either really fresh content that's gone up and it hasn't got around to looking at it yet, or some of it is fooling whatever mechanism they have to detect it, there is a disturbing trend for human tragedy to be posed as a news video and it's AI content. And that's like deeply disturbing where we're going with that. It's not just like a funny, like Instagram, I see a lot of AI generated content that's just meant to be funny. Like sometimes at people's expenses, sometimes it's just like funny cat videos that someone's AI generated and they're making the cat do just like funny stuff, and they're making like 20 things and sticking it together as a video. I think that's because that's the platform that Instagram is, and the people that are generating that content are more lighthearted. Whereas X is you get more of the extremism content from different political views, and also people who are just probably not socially right, and they're posting this content and they're thinking it's funny, and I really dislike that. And it's when it's not being caught, and then you see some comments from people where it seems like they're believing it. And I kind of want to think that maybe they're just trolls and they're like, they know that it's fake and they're commenting that, but I'm sure there's some people that are getting caught up in this content and they're like, this is real, and they're worried about it.
One of the reasons I left X was because there were people who were believing things that no matter what logical explanation was put to them, would continue down that line, and once moderation had disappeared, it just got worse and worse, and it's like I've effectively held on to my account so as nobody can impersonate me, because that would be detrimental. But effectively, I just it's not anything for me anymore, and I haven't found an alternative to it. I know people jump shop to Mastodon and Blue Sky.
There's like Blue Sky as well, which was Mark Cuban.
I was gonna say I believe I have a Blue Sky account. I certainly have a Mastodon account, but I just never found them to be. I don't know. I just kind of lost the will to invest in them.
It was just that. Well, it was Twitter was just like a social phenomenon at the time, and it built such a following. Like, it's hard to create that for everyone somewhere else. Probably the same as like what 4chan was for some people, and then it turned into Reddit. Like, some people probably didn't come across to Reddit. But yeah, there's the amount of AI generated garbage and just like disturbing. What's worse is some of the stuff that I see that I know is AI generated content. It's getting pretty good. There's like it is really hard to tell in some of these.
And the problem is that it's harmless, and you look at it and you think, it's just a picture of a raccoon. I couldn't care less. It's cute. But actually, the reality is one, it inures us to seeing AI generated content in general, and we'd start to accept it as more acceptable. And
well, I think the danger here is like when, like on X, the stuff that I'm seeing that's more extremist. When you take, like, I don't think it would happen here in Australia. But you take somewhere like the US, where people will violently riot over or there is a clash from peaceful protests and then police over something that happens, particularly something around race, that if there isn't a piece of AI generated content that's viral that causes something like that, then that's like something that never happened is causing a real world consequence.
Yeah, I think.
And I think that's
I think there is a real
issue.
risk of it in the UK. I don't know. I mean, the impression of Australia is that you're all way more laid back than we are. But I think we've seen that. We've seen it to a certain extent here with immigration, and we've had immigration riots and issues around housing, asylum seekers and stuff like this. It's you know, this is our podcast. I can say what the hell I like. I think it's awful. I think, you know, these are people who are coming to our country for help.
Yeah.
And you know, treating them in such a way is completely despicable, and it certainly isn't a thing that I would wish to be associated with, or for my country to be associated with. But you know, it is what it is. But even that, which, you know, in some cases got quite violent. Not every citizen is carrying a fucking machine gun, which the Americans are entitled to do. And therefore it does seem like a really bad idea to rile up a country which is rileable and is also armed. You know, for all our faults and our ability to get the wrong end of the stick and go and camp outside a hotel with asylum seekers, at least not everyone's packing. So
yeah. So I think like X is all about free speech, but there needs to be some accountability for, especially for generated content. Like I don't think AI generated content should fall under a free speech category.
I think
I don't know what the legal like, I don't know from a legal standpoint what that means, but
it's interesting,
like,
isn't
it's
it?
not...
It's if I paint a picture which is offensive, I can claim it's art. If I tell an AI to paint to draw to create a video which is offensive, is that art still, or is that just offensive? Philosophical questions I don't expect you to have the answers to.
Well, I think this is interesting, right? Because then we're trying to make the argument that an offensive piece of art, if that's allowed because it's protected under artwork, then we should allow it for AI. I think the difference is scope and scale of art. So if you make an offensive piece of art, you can say, sure, this is offensive. We won't publish any pictures of it. We're going to put it in a gallery. If you're offensive, don't go to the gallery. Whereas if you generate a piece of AI content and there's no moderation on a platform, and you're part of that social platform, and that's ingrained in our everyday life, you then no longer have a choice whether or not you're seeing it. And so the same then argument could be, well, like, don't go on a platform, but the platforms don't want you to do that. They want you to stay on the platform because that's how they make their money. So I think there needs to be a level of moderation then, if you're exposing people to content that they don't want to see or they find offensive.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, isn't it? It's that you see some warning of it, and that's you see it for the not quite. Well, you see it some of the time, at least, for things like, you know, this is an over 18 or not safe for work, or, you know, you have a moderation guidelines on it that inform you before you start consumption of that media. So perhaps it is that. Perhaps it's. But, you know, it comes down to the detection of AI then. Or is it just simple, straightforward moderation? You know, are we just going to pull out anything?
Well, yeah, I think there's two things there. I think one is tagging. Well, it's both, right? Because one's tagging whether it's AI or not, and then if you're saying that, and this is where I don't know where the legality of this is, but if you're saying that AI generated content is not free speech, then it's tagging AI and then moderating anything that's AI that's like offensive and is not
I
protected
was
by
going to
free
say,
speech.
does Australia have the concept of free speech? Ours is not. The UK concept of free speech is not as free as you might think, and the American one is extreme.
Yeah, so we don't have. Yeah. We don't have the same as the American one. So you can still be charged if you like, and no one quote me on this. I think this was the last time I looked into it because I was interested about the American free speech. But essentially, like, you can say whatever you like, and as long as you can't prove that you directly incited violence in the US, you can't be charged for that violence. Whereas in Australia, we have a lot, I guess, looser guidelines around what that is. So you could say something and still indirectly cause something and still get like charged for it in Australia. So our free speech isn't as free because it's like you need to be civil and not cause like unrest and violence and that kind of thing, which I think is similar in the UK.
There are
right?
some direct prohibitions against religious hatred and things like that. So, but also, we have a legal system which has some quite interesting definitions within it anyway. So, for example, assault as a charge doesn't actually necessarily involve you physically touching somebody. You can yell something offensive at them, and if it causes them to feel afraid, that's assault. So, you can charge someone with assault for making, if they have caused you to feel fear. So
I think that's I think that's the same over here.
So therefore, you're not necessarily being charged with breach of a freedom of speech kind of law, but you can still be locked up for being an arsehole, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it's I'm excited in some ways because objectively we're still living in the best time in history
definitely.
to live.
As soon as you need medical
terms of,
attention, it becomes very clear that you're living in the best time in history.
Yeah. Medical technology and advances, generally for us very privileged people living in a society where fresh water is not an issue to get, food availability is pretty good. But then at the same time, feeling like you're on the edge of dystopian future with technology is, I think, the other side of the coin. So,
assuming we've survived that long, it'll be great. Yeah. So, we've and it's always a pleasure. But we've been chatting for an hour and a half, which is great. So anyway, if we're gonna call it quits roughly at the hour, and we are. Oh good God! We are a month today from Christmas, so by the time this gets edited and goes out, it will be.
Might even be January.
It may well be January. This
because we have the other episode in front of it. I think that we did with. Who was it?
Was it Heather and? It was Heather and Jared.
Was Heather and Jared was the last one we did?
So that should come out first.
Yeah.
And also, people, you're going to have plenty of time to listen to this because you'll all be at home doing nothing and just surviving off roast turkey leftovers. So this may be an interesting break for you.
Yeah. If you want to do the Embrace Boredom Challenge, put this on for an hour and a half and do nothing else.
But don't forget to video yourself doing it and post it too, but with the hashtag Forensic Focus Podcast, please. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, it's been a year. Or it will have been a year by the time people listen to this.
Yep.
And I think we will...
So fast.
We will be back together next year. There's no intent to not be back together next year.
Yeah, we will be back together. I may be overseas somewhere halfway through the year, so we'll see.
I think if that pans out the way it should, I think we should meet up and do a live show together, sitting in front of the same camera. Sipping margaritas on the beach, ideally, but
we could also do more live conference ones where we go to a conference, we find someone to talk to, and then we could do a live not a live. We won't do a live, but we can record it there.
I'm interested to give this a go. I've been threatening to do it for a while, and I haven't actually got round to setting up the equipment for it. But I think at the Forensic Expo this year, I'll set up a booth at the stand, and we can pull some people in. Now, just as an interesting note, we had a huge amount of success at Forensic Expo this year because somebody came over to the stand. I said, they were asking about careers. I said, why don't you go onto the Forensic Focus podcast, Forensic Focus jobs site.
Yeah.
They did. And I saw them at the F3 conference, and they'd gotten a job. So it works, ladies and gentlemen. You can get jobs through Forensic Focus job board. And he was very happy about it, and it was wonderful news, and I'm absolutely thrilled for him. So I won't name you because I didn't ask your permission to do so, but you know who I'm talking about, and I know you listen. So, well, you may have turned off by now in this particular episode, but that's a different conversation. Yeah,
the boredom was too much.
So yeah, anyway, mate, fantastic.
So we'll post the link, but is that on our website, or are we talking about the
No,
Discord?
that was on the website. This was the jobs board on the website.
Yeah, on the website. Yeah. Which is also where you can find our podcast recordings, all the old ones, or on YouTube, or from wherever you get your podcast from. If you just want to listen and not look at Si and I and the mess that is behind both of us.
Blurred tastefully in my case, at least.
But yeah. But we have enjoyed recording podcasts this year. It's always a pleasure catching up with you, Si, and talking. And I love all the guests that we have that we get to talk to, because I don't live and breathe digital forensics, but I get to vicariously live through all of you here. And we'll be back next year. Hopefully, it was a quiet year for us, as we said, but hopefully with a few more guests next year. And I'm sure we'll have people like Heather and Jared maybe again.
Yeah.
Rob Fried, Sarah Morris I would love to have her on again and talk to her. We have who's the one that we keep
Simon
missing?
Frank.
Is it Simon?
Yes.
Yeah, Simon Frank. We will have Simon Frank next year. We have tried to organise that podcast like 4 times, but we will get him on. And lots more about our friends, and hopefully some new people that we get to chat to as well.
Forward to it. So for those of you that are listening, happy holidays, because by the time you get this, you should be in it, whether that be Hanukkah or New Year or Christmas or whatever you choose to celebrate in your own way. Be with family and enjoy. That's all it's about anyway. So have a fabulous time. And we will catch up with you in 2026. That sounds really weird to be saying it towards the end of November, but forward planning and all that.
Can't believe it's November. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you in the new year.